Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Next Stop Everywhere, a Doctor Who podcast, and we are continuing our journey into Doctors of the Past, which is kind of appropriate since it's Christmas season. You know, Ghost of Future, Ghost of Past, Ghost of Present. Today we are going to talk about scars, floppy hats, a beloved companion, an evil fez wearer, and Karen's favorite doctor. That's right. We are ready to talk Pyramids of Mars.
Yay!
One of Tom Baker's most famous episodes. Serials? What do we call them, Charles?
Episode. Well, either one, serials, because it's a serialized storytelling, so serials works.
So, yes, that is my companion, Charles.
Companion?
Yes. I love that, by the way, skipping ahead, where they asked Sarah Jane, who's your companion? And she didn't even blink. She didn't, I would have thought that was actually funny. And we also have Karen joining us. Hi, Karen.
Hello.
Hi.
Wouldn't I be the companion?
Yeah, I guess you would be.
And you guys
Wait.
are like co-doctors.
Well, what if
Okay.
that's what I thought?
Yeah.
What if you want to be a Romana? You could be a Romana.
Okay,
she's
so
like-
I'll be.
you could be a time
We'll
lady.
all be co-doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
all be. Yes.
Okay.
We'll all be Time Lords.
That's right.
Or should I call you Fred?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be Fred.
You can call me Al. Dun, 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 dun.
It
We this is our second episode that is post season. We are counting the days till the Christmas special.
We
And
can call
in the-
these timey-wimey episodes, can't
They
we?
are timey-wimey episodes, and we
we
are
reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
yes. Charles is helping me explore Classic Who, and we are inviting friends of the podcast to guest star and join us. And that's why Karen is here, because as she said in the 51st anniversary special, the doctor is, Tom Baker is her doctor.
I said it in another one too, didn't I?
I think you did.
Yeah, I think you might have done
Yeah.
it in Into the Dalek.
I did.
So-
You're right. And Jesse wouldn't know because he wasn't there.
That's right.
That's right. I was busy at DragonCon.
That's right.
I want to
Rub it in.
Name drop.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Da-da-da. So we're going to do our quick thoughts. Little side note. Karen and I have been podcasting together probably 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And this is the
about that.
first time we've ever had the video camera working. And so I'm a little distracted watching the podcast mom.
Giving
make
you the
faces.
finger.
I'm sure that has happened many, many times. But this is
Ooh,
the first time I've
The
seen
double
it.
deuce.
Yes.
You got double deuce.
Yes, I did. So let's start with quick thoughts. And since I am the newbie, I'm going to go first. I loved this episode. I really enjoyed last episode, Spearhead from Space. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. I had many great things to say about it, but I just love this one. There was lots of action. We get to see the Doctor being clever. And I totally see the charms of Sarah Jane Smith, the late, great Elisabeth Sladen. I will go into more details later as we continue, but this truly is just wonderful episode. So Charles and then Karen.
Oh, okay. Obviously,
Or should we go ladies
I
first?
think ladies first. I think that's
Okay,
fair,
Karen.
don't you?
So I should write down the order and type it in the wrong way.
I'm not. I don't even have my chat up, so don't worry
Okay.
about it. And I'm sorry for making Charles giggle there. Charles did a thing where he kissed his finger and went up to the sky, and I held my coffee up like I was pouring out a drink.
We were giving respect.
And I was, one for my homie and one for me. Yeah, this is, like I said, the Fourth Doctor is my favorite, and this is by far one of my favorite episodes. I'm sorry, I guess it's like a mini or a serial or whatever.
You can call that. You can just call it a story.
A mini,
story.
yeah, story.
Call it a
There you
story.
go. An arc.
There you go. Either one.
It's interesting because it kind of draws our history into the universe, like a lot of Doctor Who does. It's Egyptian history, and when I saw this, at this time it was around the King Tut exhibit was touring, and it was in San Francisco around this time, and we were going to see it. And so I was it was all around me, it was, the King Tut exhibit was in San Francisco. Our school was taking a trip there, and then this was coming on TV and I was watching it. And, this doctor was my favorite doctor. Sarah Jane is amazing. And just, the whole thing was like a magical convergence of things coming together. And this was, spooky and creepy when I was this age, as a young teenager, just barely in my teens. And I don't know, I loved it. And thinking of these mummies as robots, it's just weird and funny, and lots of different things going on. And Tom Baker has a way to make things wry and
acerbic.
Yes, acerbic. That's a good way to put it. Such a dry sense of humor, and as creepy as things are in this episode, they're light creepy, not like horror creepy. And he's still like funny, but he's serious, and I really do think he's a decent actor. He doesn't like ham it up with the really bad special effects, as we're going to discuss, I'm sure, later on. He makes it look real, as far as I'm concerned, for the time period in which we're speaking. So I think it's a really great Doctor Who episode. So
I agree.
Charles?
Obviously, I agree because, well, for one thing, I helped pick out the episode, so.
It would be interesting if you picked one you really disliked.
Yeah.
And then just say, "Oh, I love this," and you're like, "BS, Jesse, you're not even watching these episodes."
No.
You know what? That would be the best.
Well, I always told Jesse that we could do like a Mystery Science Theater. Just
that
rip
would be
the
great.
episode just to shreds.
Yeah.
But as far as
there are a few that you could probably do that way.
There's more than a few.
Yeah.
There's more than a few. But as far as this episode, Pyramids of Mars, which is for those who don't know, this is like Tom Baker's 8th story. So this is very early in his run, when he was a little more serious of a doctor, not quite as wacky, zany, eccentric, but there's still elements there, but it's not as predominant. He's a little more somber. Early on in this episode, he's almost mopey and about having lived for like 750 years and gets called out by Sarah Jane about it. So that in itself is one of the reasons I wanted explore this episode. Plus, it's got Sarah Jane Smith, Sarah Jane, like Elisabeth Sladen in her prime. So you've got, like one of the greatest Doctor companion pairings ever is the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane. And sadly, they only did like 13 episodes together, but even though Sarah Jane had like 5 or so, I believe, with John Pertwee. But this is one of their best, and it's a great little standalone story that you could just walk right into and don't have to worry about like, what's the history with the Daleks or the history of the Cybermen. You can just waltz right in and kick back and enjoy it. And it's got a cool like Hammer Films, like Victorian Gothic vibe to it, especially since it's from 1975, this was season 13 of the original series. It was like the 3rd story, I believe, of the season. So it's obviously like what now? Geez, 39 years ago. This episode, if I got me math right, but
math is hard.
Yeah, math is.
Yep.
I
was 12, so yeah, that's right.
So yeah, this is so it's obviously.
I just gave away my age. That's terrible.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
No, it's all right.
But it basically like it's very exemplary of the time period, and that was one of the things I was hoping that to find out what you, Jesse, thought of it, because since you're so new to this.
One of the things, and I know you're going to kind of drive and ask some questions, but I did not feel like this had as much dead parts. It did not feel stretched. It felt, maybe a little bit, the poacher watching the mummy / robot get out of the trap. But overall, I felt like this had really good pacing. They were moving the story along. There was a nice payoff that, the pyramids of Mars, you actually get to Mars. It isn't just stuck in Earth. So, I just am really, really a fan of this episode.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that poacher, too. So it's not like he was just thrown in there.
Right.
They had to go and get the explosives. Yeah. So
I think, though, that this is 2 for 2 now. There's a poacher been in the episodes that Charles wants. So I think this is a theme.
No, this is not. This is not a theme. But I should point out that the writer of this episode, he's listed as Stephen Harris, but in fact, that's actually a pseudonym for 2 writers. Robert Holmes, who was the script editor at the time, and also, like I've mentioned, and during the Spearhead from Space episode of our podcast, that he's written so many like significant Doctor Who episodes, and this is just another example. So maybe he's just got a thing for hunters, poachers.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but and then there was also Louis Greifer. So I'm wondering if this was like a script that was just like one of the like inventory scripts by Louis Greifer that Robert Holmes like rewrote extensively, and they decided, let's just slap a pseudonym on it.
If I remember the info text correctly, the guy who wrote it wasn't able to finish, and they didn't like the initial draft, so they thought that the first draft was kind of unfilmable, and so they kind of revamped it, and to make it a little, but to keep it, I guess one of the things that they said, and Charles, you'll be able to, and you too, Karen, is that one of the things during this time period is the show liked taking the themes of monster movies, the Universal or whatever, and then doing their own twist on them.
Yep.
So hence a mummy, but they're really robots. And
correct.
So
this was the mummy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's like other episodes like The Seeds of Doom, which is basically the movie The Thing.
The Thing, yeah.
And so
and I feel like they mashed this up with Dracula kind of, because it's like the mummy with a gothic kind of feeling to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of wanted that Dracula feel
Right.
but in a mummy costume, kind
Yeah.
of. I mean,
And because one of the the lead bad guy, and Scarman, right? I'm
Well,
getting it right?
yeah, Marcus Scarman.
Yeah, I mean, I realize he isn't the lead
Right.
bad guy,
Yeah.
but the one we're going, he has that creepy looking, red under the eyes and
Christopher Lee.
pale.
Looks like Christopher Lee
Christopher
and
Lee.
Dracula.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Yes,
it was one of the Hammer horror films, which
Mhm.
I think this was trying to evoke.
Yes, absolutely.
And even, what's his name? Sutekh or whatever.
Sutekh.
Thank you. He kind of had that, I know he looked like Set,
Right.
Mhm.
the mask face, but he's also got that long, elongated, sort of Dracula-ish looking
Yes.
Jackal face.
face.
Yeah.
So, right.
Well, actually,
So, yeah.
actually, Sutekh is Set.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I said Set.
Yeah. But, right from the
Satan Set,
beginning,
Sutekh.
it the sets look good. They're in the
Mhm.
tomb, great creepy music. I've gone too far to go back now. I wrote on my notes, famous last words.
Yep.
So, just a great beginning. So Charles, why don't you take lead and either ask questions, kind of lead us. I'll let you lead the discussion.
Okay. Well, I'll start with you first, Jesse, since this is you're the newbie here, but I definitely want to go to Karen because I would definitely want to hear what she has to say. But essentially, what this story starts off with, we're in 1911 Egypt initially, and then you got, as Jesse said, Marcus Scarman, who's he's excavating a pyramid, and he finds this burial chamber, and which is inscribed with the Eye of Horus, which, as some people may know, is it's a sign on our money, but so
Illuminati.
the Illuminati, yeah, the eye in the triangle thing. So
Yeah.
he goes in the tomb because it's Doctor Who and people are stupid that way. And then he gets immediately blasted by a green ray. Oh no, what's happened? So basically we're off and running. That Scarman is ends up becoming the servant of Sutekh the Destroyer, and we got the way the Doctor and Sarah Jane get involved is because they're inside the Doctor's TARDIS, and Sarah Jane she's trying to show off that she's nicked one of Victoria Waterfield's old dresses, and so she's showing it off, and the Doctor of course could care less. And
he couldn't care less.
He couldn't care less, exactly, because he's too busy self-pitying himself because he's I've lived for 750 years, he's got the whole,
and there's no end in sight.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm cutting
Yes.
myself.
I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity.
Which is
Exactly.
which is the best line.
Yeah.
I will argue with you, but I'm going to save it for my favorite line. And then he's whining about unit. I've done all this stuff. All I'm doing
He
is
whines about his unit all the time.
yes. Oh,
Heyo.
Sorry.
all right.
But he's all moping because now, apart from his age, he's moping because he's oh, I don't want to chase around the Brigadier anymore. It's getting old. Which, from his standpoint, yes, it is getting old because he's tired of I'm free from my exile that the Time Lords put me in. I'm got a new body, I've got a new outlook on life. I'm a little nuts. I want to go out and explore the universe. So I don't want to be tied down to unit. And this is kind of that first little inkling that that relationship, which pretty much ends in a couple of episodes from now in the android invasion, that's basically it as far as the Doctor's official relationship with unit.
He's got a new perm.
Yeah, and one of the things, I guess, the show behind the scenes is deciding that they, for whatever reason, they want to do more space-based stories. They feel like the Earth,
Right.
the Doctor being on Earth is either claustrophobic. Now, I feel a little bit like this is similar to real life, that every time you get a new management team, they change what things are going. And then, oh yeah, and I guess keep picturing whoever's the story editors or something like, okay, make up your mind. We're not in space, we're in space. Just okay, make up. And you wonder how much of that is budget based, right? That
Yes.
they're doing a little bit better, so that's why we're going to allow us to increase the budget a little bit to do better, to more special effects and more off Earth stories.
Yeah, that particular TARDIS set was very expensive. They had to use that every chance they had because the build of that set was super expensive.
And it really didn't get renovated until the Five Doctors.
Nope.
That was like 1983.
They piecemealed it.
So that's 8 years with the same set.
Yeah. So they would take little parts of it down and like repaint the walls and
dress it up
and move some stuff around. That's all they would do. That set was reused forever because it cost so much money to build that interior, the control room set.
The roundels.
Right.
Yeah, and I do love when they talked about that in the modern era. Oh, it's the round things. I miss the round things.
I miss the round things
too. I want.
Yeah, me too.
So Jesse.
And when I picture the control room, that is the one I picture. By the way, is the one with all the roundy things going up in the that. And one of the things that I think, do you guys mind if I say something here?
Oh, that's why you're here.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Absolutely.
We don't want you to talk on a podcast.
One of the things that I noticed rewatching this was he says, in particular, I'm not from Earth.
Yeah.
And, I'm not an Earthling. And he says it several times. Well, they say, and you're not I'm not human.
Mm-hmm.
He actually says that. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's a good point. You're not human. Yeah. Why are you always focused on Earth?
Right.
And, that's a good point. Why is he always focused on Earth? Why does he always have a human companion? Why and I know it's because we're watching that, it's an Earth-based show. Duh. I mean, that's,
right.
It's kind of silly to not do that. But, that's kind of why I want the next companion to be, an off-earther.
Yes.
Or something of that nature. I think it would be cool. But in this case, I think they were almost hinting at, hey, we want to do some stuff off Earth.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They were throwing it in our face. He's not from Earth, so we're going to do some stuff off Earth. And hey, here's Mars.
Yep. And we do get new alien companions after Sarah Jane because we get Leela and we get Romana. Right. So that's right there. And then Adric, who's another alien. So they're just coming out of the woodwork. Nyssa.
I am so glad that Karen brought that up because one of my notes was I really, really like the idea of Sarah Jane saying, we're in the TARDIS, we're safe. We know that I'm from 1980 and everything's fine. Let's get the heck out of Dodge and, leave. Why are we doing this?
And then the Doctor does this big record scratch.
No, yeah.
Really?
No. Let me show you why we don't just run and leave the situation to itself.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about how he does it, though, is he says, really? Do you really think everything's fine? Let me show you.
Yeah, and then okay, 1980, you're free to leave.
And she opens up the door.
Yeah.
Desolate wasteland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's so smug about it too, which I kind of dig. Yeah. I know there are some people that don't dig his smugness, but he's like, really? No. Do you really think that we haven't changed anything? Do you really? well, we do change time. And it's almost like they're reminding us too, which they are. And, he does that little, it's a timey-wimey thing where he does remind us several times in this episode as well that, you can adjust things in the future by changing things in the past.
Time can be rewritten.
Yeah,
That's right.
So Jesse, one of the things I wanted to ask you while we're on the subject, do you see a lot of, as the newbie, as far as Classic Who goes, how do you see Tom Baker's Doctor in comparison, especially in this early Tom Baker era, in comparison to Peter Capaldi's Doctor? Because I see, as I rewatched this episode, I mean, the tone is very similar. That alien detachment.
So I made this note, and I actually talked to Ken Schaefer at work today. Take a drink. We are going to get a Next Stop Everywhere drinking game out. And by the way, I want a Storming the Castle drinking game too.
Okay. Do you want me to make a bingo card for both of you?
Yeah, something.
There we go.
So, but one of my notes was the discussion, and we're jumping ahead because this is a timey-wimey show, the discussion between Sarah Jane and the Doctor after Lawrence's death, right, is eerily similar to Clara and the 12th Doctor's discussion, Mummy on a Train.
Right.
That had to be on purpose, right?
Yeah, because mummies.
Because mummies and mummies.
Yep.
But it was eerily parallel. And I love the fact that, and there was, I forgot who, I read a book, a management book, and it was something about that I appreciate the fact that you're going through a tough emotional time, but crap needs to get done. And you need to put aside your emotions for a minute.
Work is at work.
Done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And this was so I just thought that was really cool. So I didn't see a lot between him and the 12th Doctor, but that one was as close to being on target as
when Sarah Jane says a man has just died,
right,
and he says, yes, 4 men have died, and billions will also die if we don't take care of this right now.
Yeah,
and that is a line that you could easily hear from Peter Capaldi's Doctor, as I'm concerned.
And you know what? I think that's what made me warm up to Peter Capaldi, is because his parallels to this Doctor are very close,
right? And
his sense of humor is similar as well.
Well, I think Capaldi was. I mean, this is when he was watching the show. Was when John Pertwee and Tom Baker were on, and I think he's influenced more than he realizes by those Doctors, and so I think that's the kind of the way he sees the role and would like it. Like maybe the Doctor doesn't have to be all warmy, fuzzy, cuddly all the time. Maybe
he shouldn't be, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he is an alien from outer space that's lived for
whose race has pretty much been.
Yeah, he's lived 2,000 years, and he's lost his whole planet at one point, and so, it's.
Well, he's lived through that at least.
Yeah. So maybe it's okay for him to be kind of a dick now and again.
Right.
Yeah, and I really love Sarah Jane. Putting the scarf on her head. Oh, yes. I know, for a Time Lord. Yes. And
making fun of him.
Taking the piss right out of him. Yes.
Yes. But
she's great.
He did have a little bit of kind of looking into the distance and thinking.
Introspection.
Very much so. But he also was, I think, a little more charming than Peter Capaldi's Doctor. Just, I think a little more.
There's a more playful edge.
Yes, there is.
His Doctor. That actually becomes the more dominant trait.
Yes, that develops way more in his run.
But I think it's an interesting parallel that if we were more academically inclined to research and compare the, how often does the Doctor change? in his, regenerations. How much do you adapt and grow? And because you see, you're saying that Tom Baker's doctor starts out a lot more serious and goes to a little more playful. Anyway, but yeah, that would
Yeah.
be my answer.
Okay.
And it sounds like I got it right.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, good.
So
It is.
okay. So now I'm going to go to Karen. So
Okay.
you're on the spot now.
And
I'm just curious, I take it it's been a while since you've watched this story.
yes, quite some time.
Okay.
Yes.
So now that
I had to reacquire it. Oh yes.
So
exactly.
all right. So now that you've had to reacquire the freaking episode with the
Yes.
sharks and laser beams on their freaking heads.
And I have all of them.
Yeah.
now.
So my question to you is, okay, now that you're coming back after all this time, what's your take on this story? Does it hold up, do you think?
Yeah, I think it does actually. I think. Okay. Comparing it to shows now,
Mhm.
it's not as sophisticated, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would say the story is very well written.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you compare it to other shows in that time period,
Yeah.
it's much more sophisticated than those shows were.
Right.
Like the old, what is it, Space 1999 was about that time. It's
Yeah.
way more sophisticated
yeah.
than that show. Was Buck Rogers then?
Buck Rogers was.
Or was it later?
That was in the 80s.
Later.
That was in the 80s.
Okay.
Because
So it's even more sophisticated than that.
Because you got to remember, this
And-
was before Star Wars, so
Right.
we didn't
Right.
really get the big space influence
Right.
until because even we had Star Trek that was before.
Right.
yeah.
See, and I think it's on par with Star Trek.
Yeah.
The original Star Trek.
And one of the things that I don't think I mentioned last time, Spearhead from Space, we kind of mentioned it a little, but The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original, is a movie that you can watch right now, and it's just a good movie. Not a good movie of its time, it's
Right.
just a good movie.
Right.
Casablanca. There are movies made in the
Timeless.
Yep.
Yeah, that are timeless. This isn't quite there, but it's
No.
pretty darn close.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, it's a
It's
strong
not
enough story.
sophisticated, really, honestly. It's not sophisticated. It's
Yeah.
super entertaining, though.
It is.
And if you were to dress this story up in today's clothing, I think it would hold up. But it's in yesterday's clothing. So it's not as fashionable as today.
So,
However, I think it's
yes.
very entertaining. Very entertaining.
because the doctor is still kind of in frilly clothes,
Hey, they
And-
wear wacky clothes.
and all I can think of
His doctor is a bohemian, so he's going to
is
be a
that scarf just gotta be hotter than Hades.
No,
you know?
he's in England.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's true,
Exactly.
but I was just
Yeah.
thinking under the lights.
Yeah.
On a
No, the only thing I keep thinking is that he's going to trip on it.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing that gets me is he's always stepping on it. Always.
Yeah.
You can see him stepping on it. I mean, that is the thing I see all the time.
Sometimes though he wears the scarf loose around his collar.
Yeah.
He just lets it drape
Right. all the way.
around,
Yeah.
but he lets it drape. But you can tell, like, when they're doing outside filming, a lot of times he's got it wrapped up tight so to keep his throat.
Probably twice.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really big around his neck. And Sarah Jane is just gorgeous in this episode. That is literally a timeless dress. That dress.
Exactly.
Yes.
So Jesse, what did you think of young Elisabeth Sladen?
So she is so cute in this episode, but I do have to say, I think she was even more beautiful when she came back to the series with the 10th and 11th Doctor, and when she did the Sarah Jane Smith adventures. She's cute
Mm-hmm.
in this time, but I think she became beautiful. I had only seen her in the one, the school episode. I had
Yeah.
not watched any of the
School-
Sarah Jane Smith adventures, and
Well, what about the Stolen Earth? Where and Journey's End.
right.
So she's in that too.
Right. But I know that the Doctor Who world mourned when we lost her. And after
I
seeing her
cried.
this episode, I felt it then, but I really understand it now. And I can see why when you vote on the best companion that she is, it's kind of to do a sports metaphor, Joe Montana's in the discussion.
Yeah.
He may not win, but Joe Montana's in the discussion, and she is in
you
that
may not
discussion.
win.
You just went over Karen's head.
Yeah.
I am a 49ers fan, young man.
Yes. Okay, so, I
I'm
just
from the Bay Area. I know, Mr. Cowboys.
Yeah.
as they said, he married Miss World. Not the prettiest girl in the state, not the prettiest
In
girl in the
the
country,
world.
the world.
I know. I know.
He was on the radio 3 or 4 years ago and was absolutely just so charming. But anyway,
Joe Montana?
Yes.
Yeah, I
it
met him. He was very nice.
Yeah. And I do see why. And she is just so cute in
She's
this.
adorable in
She
this.
is.
Smart. And she gives him
Yeah. She doesn't take crap from him.
enough
Nope.
sass. Why are you just standing there? Well, I was waiting for you to tell me what to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Because I know if I just start doing something, you're gonna yell at me.
And-
Yep. And don't you like when she throws the box of
Yeah.
explosives at
right.
him? And he says, if you breathe on it wrong, it will explode. And she goes, sorry.
Yeah. And the,
She can't do anything about it anymore.
It's already done, dude.
Yeah.
But
and one of my notes is when he's when he says relax, Sarah Jane, and I'm like, oh yeah, easy for you to say. You're not the one stuck in the prison.
and you notice that look she gives him, and she does that deliberate shrug. She's just like, oh, of course I should just relax.
Right.
What was I thinking? Not relaxing.
Right. But you notice he says, just relax. And she's in the tube. And then he looks away and he goes, I'm so sorry, Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
And, he knows how dire it
He's
is.
like, I'm not going to be able to get her out of this.
I know.
So
absolutely.
But it's, it's that little puzzle of the one that's a liar and the one that's not a liar. I love that they do those brain teasers.
And I guess that's a famous.
It is. It's a famous brain teaser.
It's a philosophical brain teaser.
Yes.
The liar and the truth teller. Yeah.
Yeah. The other point I said is the Doctor's scarf seems to be his sonic screwdriver. Now, I know he has a sonic screwdriver, but he uses it as a ruler. He used it as a weapon. It slices, it dices, it makes a billion fries.
He trips people with it,
Yeah.
So it's a multi-purpose. It's like a Swiss Army scarf.
Yes.
It's his Leatherman.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Yes.
It is. It's just a knit man.
Yeah.
Instead of a leather man.
But
I love his scarf. I have it. I have one here somewhere. I don't know where it is.
I actually like the burgundy scarf.
Yeah.
The
it's not striped.
No, well, it's striped, but it's like a dark purple with the burgundy. It's where the one he wears from like the end of the last season of his run. In season 18, where he's like, it's from the Leisure Hive until he dies in Legopolis. Spoilers.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd remember if I saw it. I'm sure. This is the one I have though, the brighter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Greens and oranges and stuff.
And one thing we forgot about Sarah Jane is that she gets to like shoot some stuff.
Yes, she does.
With a real gun.
She's packing heat. She knows how to work that rifle. She's like, dude, I know I hit it.
I know I hit it. I did love that line.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a pretty decent special effect, I thought, where they made the fire come out and then back down in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know they just run the
reverse
film backwards, but still.
Yeah. Well, they kind of do that thing too when Marcus Scarman, he like he gets shot,
Yes.
and then like the blast reabsorbs back into his chest because they
Mhm.
reversed the film, but it
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
looks cool.
It looks good.
It
Yeah.
looks cool.
Yes.
They did it artistically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it just, like it's like it's just a pure, just cheesy. I mean, the effect is simple of reversing, but the way he stands there and that thing gets just reabsorbed back in, and it looks so. For 1975, this was a cool effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
And
to agree.
I thought the actual premise of, we're at the right place with the wrong time. This is unit, and kind of how they stumbled on this was really good. And Tom Baker has a lot of exposition to carry, but I
Mhm.
think he carried it really well. I didn't go, pointing a picture, a big sign going, look,
Yep,
read me,
yep.
exposition.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. He has a way of really he does things effortlessly.
Yes.
I think he's a very good actor, and that's one thing that I think people really glommed onto him because of that.
Mhm.
Um, not only in the speaking department, he had very good elocution.
Mhm.
He spoke very clearly, very plainly. His lines were delivered with flair. But not only that, but like if you notice when he had to do like scenes where he was knocked down and stuff, he didn't overact. He was knocked down and it looked like he was knocked down. I mean, it wasn't over the top. And some of these doctors, I love them and everything, but they really did kind of ham things up. And
Well, and we talked about this last time. Charles, brought a good point that, and I did see like when the Doctor was being pulled into the space tunnel where he used the TARDIS key to get out. They kind of do the, and for those of you not watching at home, they do that, with the
Oh,
wide
yeah.
mouth and the things.
Yeah. with their hands, the jazz hands.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, but I
Yeah.
agree with you. Much more subtle, and
Yeah. Now,
But-
mind you, there are some effects where he's like, oh, ah.
Yeah.
yes,
But even still, there's a green light on him, and he knows there's a green
Right.
light on him.
right.
And he tries to make it as subtle as possible with the green light. I think he really does a good job.
I agree.
It does
I-
does help that he has that cool, deep, resonant voice.
Oh my God. I was
I'm-
so in love with that
It's-
voice.
I'm Tom Baker.
Mhm. I, as a 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, I didn't think he was the most attractive man in the world, but his voice was just so magnetic. I was like, if I could find a guy my age with that voice, I would so be there.
So- that's-
So yeah, that was my first love of British voices.
Okay.
So
So
Interesting.
Jesse, now that you've gotten a taste of Tom Baker, you understand why it was kind of a big deal when he returned for the Day of the Doctor.
Absolutely, and I understood that even without seeing it. I've watched a couple episodes of the Douglas Adams.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
No, the what's Key of Time?
The Key of Time
yeah.
season. Yeah, because he was
Yeah,
script
so-
editor for that whole season.
Right. So I've watched a couple of episodes of that, and I understand just from Karen and you and Ken what a pedestal he is
Mhm.
on for Who fans, and
Why?
he's a linchpin for
Yeah,
Doctor Who.
and-
really.
Now, Karen,
he-
Karen, did you catch that he's watching classic Doctor Who
behind our
behind
back.
her backs, like apart from doing the reverse the polarity segments? He's
I know.
so
so this was over a year ago.
like he's sorry. Yeah,
Yes. I really,
one of us.
yes, I like
You will become like us.
it was just so special to have him there, in the way he in the 50th anniversary, the way he said you might visit old faces, and
Mhm.
it was just really special.
And that was his doctor's character too. Is that he was like, yeah, I'm kind of familiar. He was kind of that sly reference to the fact that he was the doctor. I just really dug that he was like this archivist, but he was hinting at the fact that he was really the fourth doctor. I dug it.
Yep.
Yeah,
he was really cool.
It was a good way to, and it also introduced like the notion that like they could do it for other actors, like former doctors that decide they want to come back, that they could come back as like a future incarnation of themselves.
Right.
And somewhere down the line.
That they don't just disappear into the ether.
Exactly. Or they, that they can come back without having to do like something like Time Crash,
Right. Because obviously there's a part of that personality that goes away of each doctor, because part of their personality changes. So, it essentially is like they die. Right. Because they change into a different person. So it would be nice if that part of their personality could get lifted out and put into another body.
Right.
Like this archivist or whatever.
Or brought, that personality brought back. Is what,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Put into something.
Like a storage, like somewhere deep within the doctor's, cerebrum or whatever. There's like, one little component that
with that personality.
Yeah, with that persona. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So like
that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
It's like a little database of doctors to pull out.
So
I'm going to download. Let's see. I'm feeling a bit 6 today, so I'm going to download my Colin Baker persona.
Did this Sutekh ever return?
Sutekh the Destroyer.
Why? Yes.
Sort of.
Oddly enough.
The voice.
Voiced. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know, the guy who does the voice of Sutekh the Destroyer, who's just got a really
Gabriel
Woolf. He's got a really cool voice, and it's become one of the for older fans, it's like one of the great voices of Doctor Who. So Russell T Davies, in his wisdom, brought Gabriel Woolf back for David Tennant's first season, series 2 of the new show, when he does the voice of the Beast in The Impossible Planet and the the Satan Pit. So
the Satan
Pit. So so it's just one of those that's like, and then he sounded cool then as the Beast. He was just that sinister, but yet just hugely huge presence. And demonic. And in the case of Sutekh, I mean, you get the feeling because Sutekh is powerful. I mean, he gets to he's putting the mind control on everybody. He's like shooting
even the doctor, which is
exactly
that's saying something.
I kept thinking that would be a trick,
a fake out. Yeah,
it wasn't. No,
he was really under.
Yes.
Yep.
And the only reason he got out of that was because of the whole business.
He thought he was dead.
Yeah, exactly, because he had to get strangled by the mummy, and then it's like, oh, okay,
and
he's
of course
dead.
Sutekh could let him go because
he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah, no need to control him because he's dead. And it's like, haha, respiratory bypass system, suckers.
Yes,
I'm back.
In your face.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yep.
That was actually, I think that was the first time. I'm not sure if that was the first time. Maybe it was during the John Pertwee era. I can't remember, but it was definitely one of the early times that we got the mention of the respiratory bypass ability. That actually shows up.
I think it might be the second time.
I don't know. It might be. But it shows up again in Peter Davison's episode 4 to Doomsday.
Have they mentioned his hearts yet? Or was that later?
I don't know. No. They mentioned it in Spearhead from Space. Because they look at the X-rays or whatever, and it's like, hey, he's got 2 hearts. What's up with that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yep. Hey, it's crazy. Go nuts. But
so Jesse was tweeting about this. What was it? Saturday, Friday?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, this guy's pretty cool, Sutekh." And then you said, "Oh, you might hear him again."
Yep.
Wink, wink.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
was
Yep.
like, Sutekh equals the Beast.
Yes,
And
I saw
Charles
It's
that.
like
Favorited it or whatever. And I was like,
Yep, you called it. So points to Karen.
yay.
Points to Karen on that
Thank
one.
you.
America
I
put
just-
on and Karen there. Yep,
Sometimes I know things.
Yep, that's right.
Sometimes.
So Jesse, with what did you think of Sutekh? I know you thought his look like he was something from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
And only at the end. Before that, I didn't think he looked, like one of the robots.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the devil dog mask
Yeah.
that Sarah Jane
The
sees
jackal
was was really because it looked like a devil dog to
Yep.
me, not a jackal.
Okay.
It looked good, and I didn't
Because it's all
understand.
fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand till the end that he was bound to that chair, and that's why he couldn't move much. I never understand, and this is not against Doctor Who.
Mhm.
This is against all shows. Okay, why do you want to kill all life? What
You know
purpose?
what? I was going to bring that
'Cause
up.
it-
I swear
Yeah,
to you.
Because it's cool.
Okay,
Why does
Yeah.
Galactus
Yeah.
want to eat all worlds?
Yep.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
snake.
and Galactus because he needs the nutrition, but like Empire,
Yeah.
Mark Waid's very wonderful comic book. He's controlling the world because he thinks he's better at controlling the world,
Mhm.
but he doesn't want to destroy everything.
Right.
Ra's al Ghul thinks that the only way you can, at least before 52
Yep.
and all the thing, but I need to get rid of human, but I'm going to keep some of them so that we can reclaim the planet and make it
Make
good.
it into my own
Mhm.
image. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
But this guy, I want to burn
Yep.
this SOB
All
down.
humans need to
Yes.
go.
Yep.
Right.
Yes, I will give you the gift of death
Yep.
to all mankind.
Yeah. This would be.
Only me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sutekh falls into the category of like the line from The Dark Knight that
Yes.
some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yes.
Yes.
And Sutekh's one of those guys. Yeah, he's a kind of a douche about it because, like,
yeah.
it's just, like he wants to kill everything, but that's his thing. That's what he does. It's like,
That's his jam, man.
It's like,
that's his jam.
That's how he rolls.
it's how,
Yeah.
exactly. That's how he rolls. It's like he wakes up in the morning. He's like, he gets his morning
Kill all
coffee.
humans.
He reads the paper, and then he's like, I'm gonna kill everybody's.
What are
Yeah.
we gonna do today, Pinky? Brain. Well,
Every night.
Let's take
Trots
over the world.
Trots will take over the world.
go
I
ahead,
wondered.
Karen.
That's one of the things I was going to talk about. Actually, literally, I was going to ask, why does he want to kill everyone but himself? How lonely is that going to be? And once you're done with that, what is your goal?
It will be Alexander the Great, right? Crying because there are no more worlds to conquer.
Right.
It is a weird thing.
But some people are like
And
that.
I guess
We see it in the news all the time that some people just want to kill
Yeah.
people. It's horrible.
Yeah.
As horrible,
Yeah, I know.
as
But,
horrible and stupid as that sounds, it's the way
Yeah.
some people are.
yes.
so they're just, woohoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And with Sutekh, because he was isolated for so long and he's so tremendously powerful, it's entirely possible that he just went off the deep end.
So he wants to stay isolated.
Essentially.
Well,
You
And
would think that he
here's-
would want to be around.
Yep.
so Karen and Charles, and the question I have:
Maybe he got used
is
to it being
why
so long.
are the servants
Yeah.
of Sukkot, right?
Sutekh.
Like,
yes.
Sutekh.
Yeah, Sutekh going, wait a minute, you want to
He's
kill
going to kill
everyone?
us too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but-
they're robots.
yeah, I get.
And
Wait,
he-
wait a minute. Can we think about this?
Under-
Yes, they are under his thumb.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's
Did you see what I
As
did?
Karen,
Yes,
as
I
Karen
did.
said, yes, they are under his control. They probably can't do anything about it. Because if you remember at the end of Pyramids of Mars, when Marcus Scarman's finally free after smashing the Eye of Horus, He's like,
hmm
I'm free, and then he's like, oh crap, I'm turning to dust and dying. But
Whoops.
yeah, whoops. But
My bad.
don't,
But the
don't.
but the evil guy in the
Yeah.
Fez, which by the way,
I
I
mean,
was very
not
happy
me.
that the
Yep.
doctor
Early Fez.
never saw. I don't think he ever saw the guy wearing the Fez.
hmm
But I was hoping that he was going to be a good guy, and we could go. That's where Matt Smith got
Got his Fez.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fez obsession.
I actually
Um,
Sylvester McCoy in
Really?
Silver Nemesis wears a fez,
Okay.
so you could credit it there.
All right.
So there's
Or they could
So
have
see-
gotten it
yeah.
from the monkey.
Yeah.
The little
Right.
monkey that has.
Yeah, the symbols, ching, 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 yeah. But
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Look at I've made Jesse sad.
Yes. No. I just am laughing.
Just, oh my
Okay.
God, what have
Just
we done?
thinking
What have we
How
done?
sad is this that this isn't being taped, so that this is not a video
Oh,
podcast?
Oh,
Don't worry, it is. Oh, ha 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 ha.
Yeah. So Namen. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Nameen. Mm.
yep.
yeah. And did you notice? I don't think they made a reference to this, but the robots all had faces like that little, what used to be called a face on Mars.
Right.
Mhm.
Did they ever mention that on the show?
No,
I don't think they
I don't
did.
think they have. No, I don't think they've addressed it.
But I think that was meant to be.
I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was Egyptian design. Because
Yeah, they talked about Mars an awful lot in this one, so I think it was kind of a,
Sutekh's mask is kind of that way.
yeah.
But anyway,
But it looks very much like that little face on Mars. so.
yeah. And I think Sutekh. I mean, I love Sutekh as a villain because I just think he's got that cool presence, and I would love to see him come back because he's powerful.
Oh yeah,
and just
sure.
think if he came back after.
He's a god.
Yeah, exactly. So and get Gabriel Woolf to do the voice again for God's sake.
Yeah, he's
It-
the last of Siren,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know, but he
Well-
needs to be brought back as far.
Yeah, and I did wonder that because it's a very clever ending.
Mhm.
It's similar to the two-parter Family of Man and the other, right, where at the family he does
Family of Blood.
all
yeah.
these horrible, Family of Blood, horrible to them. So, I'd love to see him back. I agree.
Yeah, he's just like banished into the eye of Horus, right?
Exactly.
Isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Like he's like the Zod, General Zod.
Yeah,
and-
in the Phantom Zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they
Yes.
did have that where they go, Neil.
or
And-
Sutekh.
So, does anyone else? I have to think all of us when you hear any TV show, any movie, when they say Neil,
Neil
immediately
before
go
Zod.
for
Yes.
Zod. Before Zod. I mean,
Let's
it's
put it
just
this way: anybody that's our age in Generation X
Yeah.
era, somewhere in there is going to remember that from Superman.
Of course.
It's
absolutely.
locked in forever. You can't.
That is my
Yes.
favorite Superman movie. I'm sorry. It
Yeah.
just is.
I
It's got the romance.
respectfully disagree.
Well, that's fine.
I'm a fan of the first one. That's my.
It's got the romance.
my
in
all-time
it.
favorite.
That's why I love
Mhm.
it.
You gotta flying through. You read my mind and all that. Flying around by the Statue of Liberty.
Can you read my mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So anyway, there's our digression.
Okay. As always.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's what we do.
Drinking game.
It's how we roll.
Yes.
Cheers.
I'm down to dregs though.
Oh.
So
Uh-oh.
All
Okay.
right, so we're getting a little long here, aren't we? So we should
Yes, we are.
probably
well, we just talked about the ending.
that's true.
so-
That's true.
Yes.
Although I do want to mention one little trivia tidbit I thought was kind of cool. George Tovey, who's this actor that plays Ernie Clements, the hunter, the poacher that Jesse loves so much.
Mhm. Yeah.
Little trivia tidbit is that he was the father of Roberta Tovey, who was the little girl who played Susan in the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies. Which was Doctor Who and the Daleks, and then Daleks 2150 AD, or Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. But
very cool.
that's just like I just happened to come across that. I was like, that's something you don't learn every day. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Very nice.
So you see, even I'm learning stuff, and I've been at this forever.
Absolutely. Very cool. So any last comments? I'm checking my notes. I think we've discussed. I did think it was a pretty self-contained episode that allows you to understand the Doctor, and that you talked about that earlier. Both of you did. You can just put this on, and you understand that he's an alien. He's fighting for good, and what the TARDIS does. Now you notice they don't show the door to the TARDIS. They
always on the
park
side.
it's always on the back,
Right.
and I guess that's for special effects purposes.
There is one time where you can see the side with the sign on it,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Yes.
don't really show it. I mean,
Yeah.
you just kind of see it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just because they,
Yeah.
for special
Yeah,
effects
because
purposes.
the doorway.
They don't want you to see inside of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But also
that there's
from the
nothing inside that
Right.
inside the police box.
And
Yeah.
some from the inside out, when they open the door to,
Mm-hmm.
the modern TARDIS, it looks like a door.
Mhm.
Right.
On this one, it's kind of all the.
It's just a box.
Yeah, just the little circle things. Right. Yes.
If you were to look inside this one, it would probably just be plywood.
Right.
The
Yeah,
one
yeah,
from this
Yeah,
one.
basically.
Probably.
Although it does have like sometimes they take the back out so people can walk through it.
In it.
Yeah, exactly. And walk out the front door.
And then they do that thing where they cut the screen off there.
Yes, there's that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that Bewitched thing where they can have the two Darrens and the two Sabrinas.
You're blowing my mind. Stop it.
Sorry.
2 Darrens. What is this madness of 2 Darrens?
Right.
Shh. They're my 2 dicks. Oh yes, they're my 2 dicks.
That sounds like a health problem. You might want to see
Yes,
something
it
about
does.
that.
Mhm.
Dick Sargent and Dick York.
Yes, they are. Right. We are getting punchy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's
It's what we do. If you listen to our podcast, that's what we do all the time. That's our
yes,
that's our
right.
natural state. So
I'm sorry.
this is like a warm fuzzy blanket to me.
I
Very
don't
nice.
have my soundboard, or I'd play the Pop of Midnight laugh.
Aw.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
my DJ made up a whole song
Okay.
to that.
All right. So
My 2 dicks.
so Jesse, what was your favorite line of the episode of the
Well,
story? Whatever.
it is. I'm sure you don't, but it's very nice of you to try.
Oh, that's
At the very
a good
beginning, when the guy's like, "Oh, I see," and the doctor says, "I'm sure you don't, but it's very nice of you to try."
very condescending, but also funny.
Yes, yeah, it was just so funny.
And Karen, what was yours?
There were so many to choose from,
Okay.
but I thought this one was very apropos for what they were doing. He's talking about his sonic screwdriver and the generator loop, and he's talking to Sarah Jane. And he says deactivating a generator loop without the correct key is like repairing a watch with a hammer and chisel. One false move and you'll never know the time again.
Nice.
Mhm.
I thought that was good. And a hammer and a chisel, and it's just such a vivid image, And he's using his little, it looks like one of those tire things.
Pressure gauges.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just so plain
Yeah, exactly.
compared to
Well, that's
the
what,
ones.
before I actually got my replacement, like actual like model sonic screwdrivers.
The light up one.
ones, the cool ones that make noise. Like before, that's what it would be like my sonic screwdriver, because a tire
Right.
pressure gauge.
You just walk around.
'Cause
Yeah.
I heard so many people have said that story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what it looked
Yep.
like back then.
Yes. And Charles, your line?
I tipped this off earlier, but my favorite line, and it's always been one of those classic lines that I think it's like I really like the lines that sum up the Doctor, and
Yeah.
and for this one it was like, I'm not a human being, I walk in eternity, and
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
and just the way he delivers it, and then immediately Sarah Jane comes in, she's like, oh, I know.
With
with
the little
little
thing
scarf,
over her
yeah,
head.
little headscarf or whatever around her.
Yes, you're such a doctor.
Oh, I know you're so terribly important in your time and space. Oh, but
And you just expect him to like have
Yeah,
his black
yep.
hair go over his face with his eyeliner.
And I you'd almost like wait for Tom Baker to give her the eye roll.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
so I just love that scene. And I love that line. It's
I walk in eternity.
it's kind of
Yeah.
cool. It's like I walk in eternity.
Yeah, this whole, oh, I'm so, I'm so sad
I'm so
and
put
everything.
So
upon.
very, very sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another thing that he says later is when he's talking to Sutekh. And
Sutekh, the Destroyer.
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm scratching my leg. When he's talking to Sutekh later, and he says, Sutekh says, "You're a Time Lord," and he says, "I've shunned that life."
Yes.
Later on, and that's the way he says it. Then it's almost heartbreaking
Mhm.
because you just know, it's not only because of all the stuff that has happened to him, but because he's trying to block out all the pain of knowing that he's responsible for a lot of the stuff that has happened.
Pretty much.
For all that. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoilers. Sorry. So Jesse, what did you end up rating this episode?
I gave this 8.5 rocket building mummies.
Nice. Very nice.
Thank you. One of the true joys is trying to figure out what item, because this is Karen's thing.
Mhm.
And every podcast I have now, we've stole this bit.
Yes.
But to try to figure that out,
Creatively
right?
borrowed.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So
Karen,
my turn.
Your turn. Karen, what did you rate this episode?
A 9.
9.
9 floating key necklaces.
Yay! Nice.
It's just not the same if I'm not doing this, though, right?
No.
No one knows what I'm doing, do they? I'm acting like I am holding a key on a chain.
Yeah, that it looks like it's held up by puppet wires.
Yes, which it
was. Yeah. But they did a good job for.
No, they did. You couldn't see the wires, and back then, most of the time you could. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess
and Charles,
since Jesse took my mummies, so
okay.
So I'm gonna have to go with like 9 out of 10 Eyes of Horus.
Ooh, very nice.
Horus.
Yes.
That's not nice. They're not whores. They don't get paid.
That's not what it says. No, that's not what it says on the bathroom wall.
Yeah. You could have said
for a good time, call Sutekh.
9 out of 10 pyramids in the back. They had those little shiny pyramids.
I did love the pyramids in the back.
Yeah.
I know, aren't they cool?
That was a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I believe I owe you a reverse the polarity.
Yep.
And there was the Mummy on the Orient Express is one that is really close to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the parallels, but I'm really going to go with School Reunion.
Oh,
because of Sarah Jane Smith, and because the just seeing her come back and the interactions between her and the 10th Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I think is really, really cool to see, and I think especially if you just watched an classic episode with Sarah Jane and then to go to her return to the modern era, which once again, one of the reasons why classic fans like yourself and Karen is that they didn't redo things. They kept it, and
she's still Sarah Jane.
Yep.
Yeah. Take a drink. Yep. In our drinking
keeping
game,
it real, yo.
Yeah, one of the things why Charles and I love Starman so much is the comic is they embraced every previous person that ever used the name Starman.
The history.
Didn't ignore it. He made that history, James Robinson. And I think, I don't know if the Doctor Who in the modern era would have been as successful if they didn't embrace that history, if they didn't make it part of it.
I tend to agree with that totally.
I do. Yeah. I think maybe we would have rejected it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I would have been very
There would have
upset.
been a huge fan backlash, and it would have been practically suicidal for the show to ignore that history. Because
well, like, they tried to reboot. And now Battlestar Galactica, obviously, is the exception for the rule. But like the Bionic Woman, all these, they've done other
reimaginings.
Yeah. And I think this was, nope, he's the Doctor, and we have that premise where he can regenerate, and we are not going to ignore our history now.
And why would you when you could just regenerate?
Exactly.
Him?
It's like it's set up for you to continue the show.
Yeah. And I love the fact they're not bound by continuity. Yep. That they can have the fun with it and do things, but
because it's timey-wimey.
It is timey-wimey, yes.
Right. And they did bring up the fact that in this episode, you can change the future.
Absolutely.
So if there ever is a continuity issue, they can just say, "Oh, well, I guess we changed that." So, oops.
Ta-da!
I went back there, and they went back to the beginning of time. They've gone to the end of time.
Yep.
So they've been everywhere and everywhere in between. So they could have changed any point in time.
Yep.
And
it's
it's easy.
And the Doctor doesn't get that fax that says he's fired. And
nope.
And his brother and sister are still in the picture. And that's something else, isn't it?
Exactly. It is something else.
Sorry.
When you said reimagining, I don't know if you guys were looking at me, but I rolled my eyes so hard my head actually moved.
There was like a thump on the microphone when you did that. Thunk. But
reimagining, that is the worst word ever.
I just remember we forgot there's a couple of lines of dialogue in this episode that Jesse I was wondering if you happened to catch, specifically the beginning of episode 4, because they're kind of important to this very show.
You'll have to remind me. I did not catch them. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's when the Doctor is in being like imprisoned by Sutekh. Like
the green.
Sutekh's putting the green whammy on him, and Sutekh, or like the Doctor asking Sutekh, he's like, "You would use your powers for evil?"
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Am I ringing the bell now?
It's our theme. It's our theme. Yes.
Am I piercing the void? Here we go.
Yes, it is. I did. I was like, oh, look, it's our theme. Yep. And I should have written it down. Yes. The evil.
Evil. Your evil is my good.
Yes.
Dun-dun-dun.
Evil.
Dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun. Sorry.
Yes. Evil. You have to say it like
that.
Evil.
Absolutely.
Your is my good.
Yeah. So coming up soon, we've got the Christmas special to talk about.
Last Christmas. Yes.
Yes.
It's just in 3 days. 3 days away from this recording. So
yes, it is. So we are very excited. This is the once a year that Chris Jackson watches the Doctor with me. For the last year he did this and he had a good time. So this year he plans to, when Linda goes to sleep because it's been too long of a day, he will sit down with a adult beverage and watch it with me. And I think mostly just to make his old man happy.
That's good.
So I'm very excited about that.
Good.
Nice.
And
my husband told me he was going to watch Pyramids of Mars with me for this. And I said, I'm going to watch it. And this is what I heard back.
Now, at least you got a promise. That was more than I got from my wife, Lori. So
now
it was just like, gives me the look like, oh, you're watching classic Doctor Who? Okay.
Yeah, we'll move on.
She loves new Doctor Who.
I knew he had no intention of doing it.
She can't watch anything that's before Paul McGann. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was out in the chair in the living room watching TV out there with his headset on. He has a headset, like a wireless headset that he watches
Yeah.
TV.
Mm-hmm.
So because it'll come through the wall into the bedroom, and my computer's right on the other side of the wall, and I go, I'm gonna watch it now, and I'm peering around the corner because I can't hear him otherwise, and he's like this, sitting up in the chair, and I was like, "F you, you dick."
And
Anyway, sorry.
Charles, remind our listeners what is next in our journey of Classic Who.
After the Xmas episode?
After last Christmas, we are going to go back to, let's see, this would be 1982 with the Peter Davison story Earthshock.
Nice.
Which is a very big episode featuring an event that doesn't happen in Doctor Who very often, but it's very important.
All right, and it's your favorite Doctor.
Peter Davison's my Doctor. I started watching with Tom Baker, but I only watched a few episodes. It was Peter Davison that was my first full complete run. So yeah, I consider Davison my Doctor. Nothing against Tom Baker or any other doctors, because I dig them too. But Davison's my favorite.
Peter Davison is connected in a way no other Doctor is.
Yeah. Through Georgia Moffat.
Yes.
And through David Tennant.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes. Karen, how can we find you?
So many ways.
Okay.
I'm all over the place.
That narrows it down.
I am at Eliveria on Twitter, and in my bio there is an About Me link, and you can find me there in all sorts of ways. Yes. Just click on that link. There's other links there.
And what podcasts are you doing now? I know that Constantine is...
I'm doing the Constantine podcast on this very network with that very person there, Charles.
Yeah. Who, me?
And you.
Me.
And I am on the GSM network doing several things. Sleepy Hollow right now, and we're also planning on doing a few other little things here and there. Some exciting things coming up, so keep your eye on that.
Karen and I do JKL Media.
Yep.
Which I absolutely adore.
Oh, thank you.
And also Storm in the Castle.
Storm in the Castle, yes, it is.
Which will be back in January.
Yeah. To produce on the air, I had the head of the DFW Doctor Who cosplay group, if you can get any more specific, asked me if would I be interested in Charles and I interviewing some of their cosplayers, and I said, why, of course we would.
Cool.
If it's Doctor Who, we'll talk about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, I actually think that would be fun.
That could be fun. We get a special cosplay episode. That's good. Yes. That sounds good.
And Charles, where we can find you?
Oh dear. We've got, I'm on Twitter at Charles Skaggs. I'm also on the Facebook. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on the Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. And at my blog of geeky things, damn good coffee and hot. So yeah, check me out there, and thanks for everybody who gives their support and for supporting Next Stop Everywhere, and also Dangerous Habits, the Constantine podcast, which I do with Karen. So thanks for your support, guys. Keep it up, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. I am at JWJ170104. And on Facebook, Jesse Jackson from Louisville, Texas. Please stop and go to iTunes, give us a rating and a review. If you want to reach us on the show, it's at Next Stop SMG and Next Stop Everywhere at gmail.com. So look for the feed. We have we'll do the Christmas special. We're going to do Earthshock, and we actually have a couple of interviews that are scheduled to be released shortly, where a certain host talked to Paul McGann and Colin Baker. So, and did you see Rose?
There's that magic finger again. Oh, there's the other one.
And do you see Billy Piper, also known as Rose?
Yes.
He's going to be here in Dallas in
I
February.
did see that, yes.
I'm dancing the dance of joy. So thank you
Why don't you
guys.
hook a brother up?
Yes, I know. I need you. Well, and then Linda loves Lori anyway, so we just need to have you guys come out anywhere.
Yes.
So,
Hello.
yeah, well, Karen, you know the door's always open for you and Mr. Podcast Mom.
No, just me.
Okay, that sounds
You
good.
don't want to meet him. No, he'll come.
Thank you guys for listening. Keep hope alive. And remember, I am and always will be the optimist, the hoper of far-flung hopes and dreams of impossible dreams. And what better for the holiday season? Thank you guys. We will talk to you soon. For now, be careful. Bye.
Bye, everyone.